Hi guys, in this video we will learn about the differences between real-time database and cloud Firestore. I have already wrote article on it. If you just don't want to watch a video, you can just go to the realtimecoding.com website and open the article and go through one by one differences. So in table of content, let's just go through one by one. First we have like real-time database definition and cloud Firestore definition. Then we have the differences like query and structured data. Second one is manually fetching of data. Third one, write and transaction. Fourth one, scalability. Fifth one, detecting phrases. And sixth one, multi-region support for better readability. Seventh one, security. Eighth one, offline support. Nine one, difference price model. Then at the end we will have conclusion. In the conclusion we will see like which database is best in which scenario. So that is pretty much regarding the table of contents. So let's get started into the main details. So why we need database in application? Let's suppose if your application required or process the data, so to keep the data and somewhere in a place of application you require a database. So that's where your data is keeping. So if your application require or demanded, they just request to the database that this data is needed, then database just run the queries and return the data. So that's how like database plays as a main actor in the application where the application require database. Let's first see like what is real-time database and what is cloud Firestore. Before getting into the detail, I just want to mention that the both of the database is provided by Firebase. So real-time database is a low latency solution and syncs things across the client real time. It's like adjacent tree structure data. So if your data is stored on real-time database, it's like adjacent object. It will have all the details of what's stored on your real-time database. So the bigger the data of or the size of the data is, the bigger the JSON file is. So as much as your data scales, the bigger it will be complex in understanding or in reading. Now coming to the cloud Firestore, cloud Firestore is a new and modified database with advanced features such as fast queries, indexes and flexibility, and you can scale the data as much as you want. Cloud Firestore store the data in the document model structure and syncs data for client and server side as well. So that's the definition. Now we will get into the differences one by one. First one is a query and structured data. As I mentioned earlier that real-time database store data in the JSON tree structure means that you have node and node has key value pair data. So it's stored as a JSON format on real-time database. The more your data is scaled, the bigger the JSON file is, which is complex and not easily understandable. Real-time database gave you deep queries with some limitation, like you can do sorting or filtering. Suppose you want to sort data, then you can't filter data at the same time. So you have to do it manually filtering the data. If you get filtered data, then you will have to do sort manually on the app side. Real-time database has a deep queries by default, which means that it has entire subtree even if you need a specific child. Real-time database doesn't have descending order feature. If you want to fetch data in descending order, then all you have to do is to fetch records, then do some logic or operation to make the data in descending order manually. On the other side, Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore is a bit more structured as compared to real-time database. It stores data in collection document model means collection can have documents, then document can point to another subcollection which has documents and can point to another subcollection. That means suppose if you have parent collection which has documents and that document can point to another subcollection which has documents and then their documents can point to another subcollection. Cloud Firestore provides you advanced features such as sorting, chain filter, and combined filtering within a single query, unlike real-time database which can use only sorting or filtering at a time. Cloud Firestore is a well-structured data helps you to use queries in a more efficient way, like you can fetch documents without getting all the documents, which logically easier to understand. Cloud Firestore can give you feature to fetch data in descending order. The second difference is like manual fetching of data. Real-time database is by nature real-time for building such as apps or feature such as chat, location updates, or enabling collaborative experience and so on. Majority of the developers use it in a traditional way, means just fetching the data when I request it. Real-time database, by nature, it's different. It always listens to the data as new changes occur, then the listener get triggered. On the other side, Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore is a real-time nature and simple. One time means when you request to fetch data, then it responds only one time until you request for another fetch. You can still add listener to fetch new updates or changes made to the data. Firebase Cloud gives you flexibility to retrieve data however you want to. The third difference is write and transaction. Real-time database can execute a single operation as a query, means you can execute an update to one node at a time. Suppose if you have a scenario which requires like update three different nodes simultaneously. In that case, you will have to do like three different operations, like you can't do in a single operation. On the other side, Cloud Firestore can execute multiple operations as a batch with any operator of the set, update, delete, and complete all of them automatically. Fourth difference is scalability. Scalability is the most important part of your application. Suppose your application is scaling in terms of users and data. In that case, you need to have a better scalability management in your application. Real-time database is not automatically scaling. We have to customize scaling because it scales up to 200 connections simultaneously. It means that suppose if you have large users base on your application, then it can connect only 200k users simultaneously to your database. If there is more user occur, then that connection will be facing troubling to connect to your system and 1k writes per second in a single database. Suppose if a user want to add data or write data on your database, then it can only happen like in 1 second. Only one can request can adjust your real-time database. Real-time database gives you no limits on writes. Real-time database will be able to scale in a complex way, which can cause confusion and worrying about the data. As we initially discussed in our first difference, that real-time database store data in a JSON structure. So the more the data scales, the bigger the JSON file is, which can make conflicts or difficult to understandable the data. The more your database scales, the more effect on your query performance, because query performance is proportional to the size of your result set, not your data set. Searching will also cause slows in data scaling. On the other side, Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore is automatically scaling because it's a new and robust data structure. Firestore can accept up to 1 million connections simultaneously and 10k writes per second. As you can see, the difference is quite huge. There is possibility that Firestore can increase the limit in the future. Firestore has a limit on writes to every single document or index. Cloud Firestore will be able to scale better than real-time database. As your database scales, then it will not have any effect on query performance. The query performance is proportional to your result set as not your data set. Searching will remain still fast no matter how large your dataset might become. This means that search for the top 10 restaurants in Chicago for a restaurant review app will take the same amount of the time whether your database has 300 restaurants, 3000 or 30 million. The fifth difference is detecting presence. Real-time database has a native support for presence, mean it keeps track of client connection status and give an update as client connection status change. Let's suppose if you are developing a Uber type application, your customer just open application and see the map and showing the online drivers. Let's suppose one of the driver get disconnected or close the application. In that case, the customer should be able to see the real time, like how many drivers is online, who's close to the customer. This kind of feature really helps in that kind of scenario in which you really need like detecting of the live presence. On the other side, Cloud Firestore doesn't support presence natively. You can use real-time database combination to support presence. Doing that, you will need to explore cloud function to sync the Firestore and real-time database. The sixth difference is multi-region support for better reliability. Real-time database has support for single region location. This means the database are limited to zone availability. Extremely low latency is the ideal option for the frequent states syncing. Like if the unforeseen situation occur, like in that case, like all the users who are connected to the data center will goes offline. In that case, the user will be not able to access the data because it doesn't support like multi-region databases. Now coming to the Cloud Firestore has support of multi-region location. This means that your data is automatically copied to multiple geographically separate regions at once. So if some unforeseen disaster were to render a data center or even an entire region offline, you can still rest assured that your data will be continued to serve. The seventh difference is security. Real-time database data validation doesn't happen automatically. Means validating data needs validate rules. Authorization and validation are handled separately, but we can easily validate data by using validation rules. On the other side, Cloud Firestore data validation happens automatically, means authorization and validation are combined. Read and write rules are secured by Firebase security rules. You can restrict the query to access specific collection or documents of data by specifying the rules in the security rules section. Cloud Firestore has more robust for mobile web and server than real-time database. The difference is offline support. First, we need to understand what is offline support. Offline support means that if your application disconnected from the internet, then the app will show cached data to the client. As your app connected to the internet and query performed operation, then it also download data from your database to be cached. Each time it check if the data is synced or not, means that it makes sure that new data is cached. So your application disconnected, then it shows the cached data. For real-time database, offline supports only for Android and iOS client, but Cloud Firestore is offline support for Android, iOS, and web client. Ninth and last difference is difference price model. Real-time database charge only for bandwidth and storage, but at higher rate. If you just see the picture, the simultaneous connection, we can have up to 200K and also 1 GB store. If you just look for another per GB, that it will charge you $5 per a month. So is the download restriction. That means that we don't have any restriction or limitation on the write and read data. Let's just get into the Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore charge depends on the operations such as read, write, delete, etc., rate, bandwidth, and storage. Number of reads, writes, and delete operations performed on the data. Amount of storage consumed by the database with indices and amount of network bit. To get simplify more that, let's just check the picture. It shows that we have like up to 1 million simultaneous connections and also stored data 1 GB and now cost up to 1 GB total, then $0.108 per additional GB. If you see the differences between the per GB and with the Cloud Firestore and the real-time database were charging $5 per GB, but when it's come to the Cloud Firestore, it charged only 0.108 per additional GB. Now, coming to the writes, reads, and deletes, if you see that we have a limitation on per day, like we can write documents up to 20K, but we can also read 50K reads on per day and also 20K deletes on per day. So that's mean like on real-time database, we don't have any limitation on writes, reads, and delete. But on the other hand, Cloud Firestore does has that connection limitation. If you exceed the limitation, for example, like for the per day 20K writes is the limitation. If it exceeds, then it will cost you how much you consume. Finally, we can conclude the conclusion. After going through all the differences, now we are in a better position to choose which database according to our needs. As we go through all the points so we can conclude which one is better, I recommend Cloud Firestore or real-time database because it gives you performance, strong security, combined filtering, indexing, and importantly, it's scalable no matter how much your data scales. Then another example I can give you, like if your applications read and writes requires a lot, then I will consider a combination of Firestore and real-time database. For example, if I have to develop a delivery tracking app, then I will keep the location related data on real-time database as it updates every few seconds and other detailed info, delivery and price etc info will keep on the Firestore. Like why I choose like real-time database for keeping the updates locations because it's update few seconds, and if you notice like we have limitation on reads and writes on the Firestore, but on the real-time database we don't have any limitation. In that case I can easily will adjust with the real-time database. Furthermore, like Firestore charge read and writing data, so make sure you arrange data in a way that doesn't cost you much. So you will have to do some custom logic and a better optimization in reading and writing and deleting. Suppose you need to have a cache management like sometime to avoid unnecessary reads and writes because to save you price or the connection request uh, until reaching its limit, it will help you like if you come up with a better solution. I think in this article or in this video we have come across with all the points. Now we are in a better understanding which one is good as per our needs. If you want to read the article, simply go to the realtimecoding.com. You will see the website of realtimecoding.com where I will have already written 3 articles and some of the articles are in draft. So I will be publishing those articles as well. So it's better to subscribe to my website so every new article I publish you will get an email. So in this way you will not miss any of the article to read. And also in the YouTube section keep looking for that. I have already like listed some of the playlist where I have uploaded videos to these playlists. And also I am working on Kotlin crash course. It's like in the initial stage. Currently I am working on outlines like which of the topics should be included in that course. So hopefully it should be published before December. Stay tuned and watching the videos and also subscribe to the channel and share with your friends as well because on this channel I will try to upload more latest and updated content to you. Thank you so much.